Welcome to Heat Check, presented by the Action Network. The NBA playoffs are here. The NBA play-in tournament's here. Let's get some bets in. This is Heat Check. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Matt Moore, senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by my colleagues, professional bettor Raheem Palmer, and do-it-all analyst, know-it-all analyst Chris Raybon. We're going to be bringing to you today. We're going to get you everything you need to know to bet the play-in tournament, as well as some NBA futures for the playoffs before they begin this weekend. Best bets, player props, all coming up. Everything that we discussed today is going to be on the award-winning Action Network app. You can follow Raheem and Chris's picks in there, get up to the second information on where the bets and money are coming in. You can check all of that out on the award-winning Action Network app. Let's not waste any more time, boys. Let's get into the bets. Let's talk Cavs Nets. So Nets hosting the Cavaliers tonight, 8.5-point favorites. Should be, look, the Nets should win this game if we're talking about just the talent disparity, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on it. I'll go ahead and let you know what my best bet on this game is. I got Kyrie Irving over 6.5 assists. So if we look at how the Cavs play pick and roll coverage, they put two at the level and they try and get the ball out of the ball handler's hands. The idea is don't let the guy with the ball do what he wants to do. Like, make anybody else make plays, right? Kyrie's going to run a ton of those pick and rolls. In those situations, you pass to the roll man, and that guy's got a pretty open shot. Bruce Brown ate them alive on this in the matchup on Friday night, which we did on NBA Bet Stream. He had 9 assists, Kyrie did, in that game. 9 assists in the previous matchup. They're going to go right back to that coverage. This is the Cavs scheme. This is what they run twice as much as anything else this season. So I think there's a great opportunity for both. They'll run KD, Kyrie pick and rolls, which is going to, I think, open up shots for KD off the bounce. And then you got the transition opportunities as well as kind of like a nice little bump up. So I'll take Kyrie Irving over 6.5 assists. Raybon, what do you think?
I like it. I think that is how Cleveland's going to play. Kyrie didn't hit his points prop last game, went over his assist prop. I think we're going to see more of the same.
Raheem, what's your best bet for Cavs Nets?
So my best bet is actually correlated with your best bet. I mean, we saw Kyrie Irving go 7 of 22 from the field on Friday night. So we know he's going to be passing the ball. And I think one of the guys he's going to be passing the ball to is Bruce Brown. I like his over 13.5 points. He's going over in 12 out of 18 since March the 3rd. And when you tether him with Kevin Durant, he's at 15.1 points per game. And, of course, last Friday against the Cleveland Cavaliers with Kyrie Irving getting those 9 assists, dishing the ball, kicking it out. Bruce Brown had 18, 10, and 8. So I'm expecting a similar performance here. Let's go Bruce Brown over 13.5 points.
I don't know what to do. Raheem's taking a prop. He never takes a prop. I'm very confused. The playoffs, this is a very brand new world that we're in. I actually will tell you, I like the points and assist prop for Brown a little bit more because what I'm worried about, and this actually could hurt me with Kyrie too. So they double the pick and roll, bounce pass to Brown. He's on the short roll, that Draymond sequence that you always see with the Warriors. Brown's a good enough passer. He racked up all those assists the other night. Kick to the corner 3, right? So I want to be able to make sure that I cover in those assists as well. But I do think Brown winds up getting the points just because this number is so low. Like, this is still, I think, a really low number. Cavs defense has been better, but without Jared Allen, they just don't have the rim protection. So I like that one as well. Chris Raybon, what's your best bet for Cavs Nets?
I'm going with the under 228.5 in this game. And it's funny because you guys are talking about your best bets, and we've already gotten down to like the third Nets player. Like, we're getting the ball out of Kyrie's hands and we're swinging it to Brown. Then we might get it out of Brown's hands and we're going with his assist and his points. But I look at these two teams, and in the last game they played a couple of days ago, the pace was 89.6 in that game. And I just think that you're going to see more of the same. I think you're going to see the Nets have to work a little harder for their shots, even with no Jared Allen there. And if you look at Cleveland and listen to all the media and what the team is saying, they want to emphasize, their transition defense. And this is all obviously after playing the Nets on April 8th. They're saying we want to emphasize our transition defense and we have to prevent offensive rebounds. And, if you're emphasizing transition D, that means you're getting back on defense. And then on the other side, if you're trying to prevent offensive rebounds, that means that you're not going to run when you get the ball. So I think Cleveland's going to play a little slower. We saw both of these teams play slow. Both of these teams are combined 86, 75, and 3, 54% toward the under this season. So, and it's playoff basketball. And we know the totals tend to come down here. So 3 out of the 4 games, these teams already failed to hit this number. The one they did, they went over by a half a point. And in that most recent game, they went on under this number by about 4 points and under the total in that game by about 7. So love the under in this game to start the play-in tournament.
I like the pace angle here. I think that's pretty sharp. I think look, the last game went under. It was a high total at 232 and it cashed 225. So I think there's value there. The Cavs defense, part of it with pace is the Cavs defense is not going to let you get your first initial thing. Like they're going to make you make multiple rotations. Now I think the Nets could be efficient there. Nets team total is 118.5. Cavs team total is 108.5. Those both feel a little high to me. I don't like this because it's like, oh, I'm on the over on assists. I like Bruce Brown to put up points, but that's because I think the numbers are a little bit soft, right? Like 6.5 assists just isn't a lot. And Bruce Brown, 13.5 points isn't a lot either for a guy I think it's going to get a lot of usage. I actually do kind of think I could see a model for this game where Kyrie hits the over on his assists, Bruce Brown puts up points, but the under still hits. I especially feel like the Cavs may struggle defensively. Nets, honestly, defensively haven't been that bad over the last couple of weeks. I'm still really worried about their front court against the better teams. This Cavs team is easy to stop. So I gotta say, I agree with you on that one. Other game on Tuesday night, we've got the Los Angeles Clippers taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wolves are 3.5-point favorites. It's open at 2.5, moved up to 3 and then 3.5. It's a really fascinating matchup. Clippers won the season series 3-1. Totals 230.5 for this one, pretty high. I'll just let you know, I started when we did the podcast for Buckets, which you can download wherever you get podcasts right now. I was with Raheem on Clippers. I did the guide for this game, which you can find on Action Network. And I went the other way. I'm now on Clippers, or I'm on Wolves rather. I moved entirely over to the Wolves side. Here's the biggest difference. On wide open shots in the regular season, the Wolves shot 8% worse than expected for shot quality given the shooter. Not just like where you shoot from, but even for like where the specific players shoot from. They shot 8% worse on wide open looks. All of their numbers were below expectation. All of the Clippers were above. Also, you got the fact the Clippers are actually bottom 5 against switch defense. The Wolves for most of the season played at the level in pick and roll. They've gone more to switch defense. That was really bad for like the first 2 months they were running it. They figured some stuff out with the switch, and they've been way better over the last month. I think that's an underrated value there. So I'm actually on the Wolves here with home court. I will take the Wolves -3. Raheem, I know you're on the other side here.
Yes, I love the Clippers in this matchup over the last 2 weeks since Paul George and Norman Powell have returned to the lineup. They're scoring 1.27 points per possession, and a big part of it is the three-point line where they are lighting teams up. Obviously, the Clippers are second in three-point shooting percentage, shooting 38%, and they're facing a Wolves team which gives up the 7th highest frequency of three-point field goals. If you guys saw the games against the Boston Celtics, the Toronto Raptors, they got absolutely obliterated from downtown. So I'm expecting the same thing here. More importantly, the Clippers, they won a season series 3-1. And look, Karl Anthony Towns is a star, but they held this guy down to just 15.3 points per game in those matchups. The only game in which the Clippers have lost was the game in which Paul George didn't play. Look, you got a more experienced team with Paul George, a bunch of wings who have playoff experience. They've gone deep into the playoffs. Who do the Wolves have that have gone deep into the playoffs other than Patrick Beverley? I just don't see it. So also, more importantly, the Clippers, the Wolves, they make their living turning teams over. They're second in turnover rate. The Clippers don't turn the ball over that much. They're top 10 in turnover rate for offense. So I think if the Wolves can't turn the Clippers over, they're going to get a ton of open looks from three-point range. They knock them down, and they should be able to win this game and go face the Phoenix Suns.
I got bad news for you. Of this season, the Clippers' second and third most points allowed off turnovers belong to 2 of their games versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. They did, in fact, turn them over. Also, despite the majority of the tickets in our Action Network app coming in on the Clippers, this line has moved a full point the other direction. We're tracking sharp moves. The money's coming in on the Wolves. We're tied here. Chris Raybon, before we get to your pick, I need a tiebreaker here. Which side do you like? +3, -3?
I like the Wolves. I think Pat Bev makes a difference, and I think he just makes the Clippers a little more one-dimensional. I think it's gonna be a lot of Paul George, but I lean toward the Wolves.
Patrick Beverley, y'all seen Patrick Beverley trying to guard DeMar DeRozan. He's too small. He's not going to be able to handle these big wings. Or you put him on Paul George, you put him on Marcus Morris.
No, he's guarding Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, he's gonna take out Reggie, who's always key for them in the playoffs. Like
he's too small for Reggie as well.
Okay. He's the straw that stirs the drink, man. He's not, but
all right. Raybon, what's your pick for this game?
Yeah, I hate to interrupt you guys duking it out over the Timberwolves and the Clippers, but I'm going with Paul George over 7 rebounds in this game. And, looking at the previous postseason, I think it sheds a lot of light on how Paul George is going to play here. And in the last year, regular season, 6.6 rebounds a game. Then goes to the playoffs. It's up to 9.6. So he +3 in rebounds per game. We also have a 3-game sample of him against Minnesota from earlier this year. Even though he missed a lot of time, they played 3 times in November. And Paul George averaged 8.3 rebounds a game in those matchups. So everything's kind of pointing here to Paul George beating his season average in rebounds by, 1, 2, 3. And that's what he's been doing. So I'm going to pick it to keep going. Paul George over 7 rebounds.
Love this. Because it ties back into a lot of what I talk about here with all these schemes. So on ball, off ball, whatever, the Wolves are going to switch a lot, or they're going to have their big way up at the level, right? They're further away from the basket. If Karl Anthony Towns switches, they'll move him out. Nas Reed, same deal. They'll move him out. Clippers take a lot of jump shots. That opens up a lot more opportunity for variance, and Paul George is a great rebounder. The Wolves' entire thing of wanting to pack the paint with those bigs, you can't do that versus the Clippers, especially if you want to switch or if you want to play at the level. So I think Paul George, I love this one. This is a great pick, Raybon. Nice job here. Hornets Hawks on Wednesday night in the East 9-10 matchup. Should be an interesting game. Hard to tell. These two teams have been so inconsistent this season. No Gordon Hayward. Likely no John Collins. My best bet is going to be a prop. I'm taking Clint Capella over 12.5 rebounds. The Hornets run switch more than anybody else. Just talked about this. Once again, Mason Plumlee going to be up. All their bigs going to be up. PJ Washington stretch the perimeter. And so you're going to have a lot of opportunities underneath for Capella. Capella averaged 13 per game in the 4 matchups versus the Hornets this season. That was in just 28 minutes per game. If he gets up into those 35-minute range, he's going to have 14, 15 rebounds pretty easy. I can't get one on Onyeka Okongwu. I do want that as well. I want both of the Hawks bigs on the rebounding prop for this game. I'll be playing the over. If I can find an Okongwu over prop, I'm going to be playing that as well. That's going to depend on whether or not John Collins plays or not. If Collins plays, I'll grab his over as well in place of Okongwu. Raheem, what do you like for this game?
Going over 236. I know this is the postseason. You tend to see less possessions, but my model still makes this game 240. You got 2 bad defenses. You got the Hawks, 26th in defensive rating, allowing 114 points per 1 possessions. You have the Hornets, 20th in defensive rating, allowing 113.6 points per 1 possessions. And you got 2 good offenses. So this is like the NFL for me. I call this a fire drill over. I'm just trying to take these 2 bad defenses and fire towards the over. And then more importantly, the Hornets are 5th in pace, 5th in offensive length of possession, and 8th in defensive length of possession. So I think you see these 2 teams, they're young, they get up and down the court, they score a lot of points, and this is probably a close game with either side having a chance to win.
Yeah, I don't have any sort of counter for this. Like, I can't even think of like a devil's argument here. Like, the Hawks are going to run drops, so Terry Rozier is going to hit a bunch of mid-range jumpers along with LaMelo Ball dishing and running in transition. They're going to run. Neither of them can defend. They can't stop anything at the rim. They can't stop anything on the perimeter. I don't have any sort of argument I can pose against this total, even up at 236. I agree with you. I think it's soft. Raybon, what do you like for this game?
So I'm gonna go pretty nasty here and go with Mason Plumlee over 5.5 points. You mentioned that they're gonna have issues at the rim on defense. Raheem mentioned, it's gonna be a lot of points in this game. So I think Plumlee can get to his, usual 6-7 points in this one. In 3 games versus the Hawks this year, his usage rate is 18%. For the entire season against everybody, his usage rate is under 12%. So massive increase. He's averaging 8.3 points per game in his 3 games against the Hawks, and he's gotten over this number regardless of opponent in 59% of his games this year. So it's not going to be a focal point, but I think he's going to be able to do enough in a high scoring game, maybe get a couple putbacks, just be in the right place at the right time to get him to 6 or more.
Yeah, the number is crazy low. This is a great find because I just think the number is ridiculously low for a guy that's likely to play a lot of minutes. Not that they have a lot of good options at center, and they're going to need somebody to bang down low versus Capella when they're not switching it. So yeah, I like this. I like that pick quite a bit. Spurs Pelicans final play-in game. You get the 9-10 in the Western Conference. Pelicans are 5-point favorites at home. Total is 227. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't love this game. There's just not a lot of angles I like in this spot. I looked at some Jonas Valanciunas stuff. I looked at some CJ McCollum stuff. I looked at some DeJounte Murray props. I just wind up leaning toward the over. So I'll take the over here. I don't have a great cap on this game from the perspective of I don't know really what to expect. The Pelicans have been a better team since basically the first 13 games of the season. They've just been a better team overall. They've been a pretty good team. Over the last couple of weeks, though, their defense really has taken some hits, and the Spurs team can generate a lot of points because they're very well coached and they exploit some of those weaknesses that you have. They also play at a really crazy fast pace. I'll take the over here. I'm not crazy about it. So I'm looking at the two of you for better bets to make on this game. Raheem, let's start with you. What do you like for this one?
I have to admit, I'm not crazy about this game either. I think it's uglier than a masterpiece sneaker, but I'm going to go with the Spurs +5. Look, as a road dog, they're 19-12. So I think they play this team tough. They've won 3 out of the 4 matchups, including the March 26 matchup when they were 7-point dogs and they won outright 107-103. And when you look at the last 10 games, this Spurs team has really been defending really well. The 3rd in defensive rating, allowing just 109 points per 100 possessions. Matt, you mentioned that the Pelicans have been struggling defensively. Last 10 games, they're 20th in defensive rating, allowing almost 117 points per 100 possessions. And when you look at the Spurs team, they are a covering machine right now. They are 9-1-1 in their last 11 games. So let's just go with the hot team. It's ugly. The spread is +5, and I think odds makers are trying to tell us something with that. The last time these two teams played, the Spurs were catching 7, now they're catching 5. So I think this is a close game. Either one of these teams wins by 1 possession.
Yeah, a lot of motivation factor here too. I think from the perspective of could be Greg Popovich's last game. There's a lot of burbling rumors about that one. We'll see what happens. Raybon, what do you like in this game?
Well, first of all, shout out to Raheem for quoting Lloyd Banks from that victory freestyle with the Master P line. But I'm going with DeJounte Murray over 7.5 rebounds. And I do agree that this is a game where it's a little tougher to cap. So I'm just kind of going with a number that I feel like is a little bit off here. And that's Murray's rebound prop. He's been over this number in 41 of 68 games, or 60%, including 3 of 4 versus these Pelicans. He's averaging nearly 10 rebounds a game against the Pelicans at 9.8. And he's become one of the Spurs' top rebounders over these last couple of seasons. And I just think they're going to need it in a game, winner go home game. You might see an extra couple minutes as well. So I just think the number is too low here for Murray at 7.5. I'm going over.
He's become so good. He was a serious most improved player candidate this season. He was awesome. Like this number as well. Let's go to the futures and let's talk about what we think is our favorite playoff future going into the NBA postseason, which began on Saturday after the play-in games. I'm always shopping for finals matchups. I love finals matchups. You get crazy good numbers on them, given the kind of certainty. If you look at the entire board, I am going to go ahead and be a little contrarian here. To me, the best one on the board available is if at FanDuel, you parlay the Bucks to win the Eastern Conference and the Warriors to win the Western Conference, you get the plus 1550, 15-1, 15.5-1 for that to be the matchup. It's pretty easy here. I think the Bucks are the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think they can beat the Nets. I think they can beat the Celtics. I think they can beat the Sixers, and I think they can beat the Heat. So I like them to win their conference. And on the other side, the Suns are the favorite. They're going to be the favorite. And when I hedge this, I'm going to have to hedge and pay a number on the Suns. I get that. But I'm not going to have to pay a deep number, I don't think, on the Suns. I think that matchup will be pretty close. Golden State won the season series versus Phoenix. Phoenix struggles versus the switching style that Golden State employs. I think the Warriors, because of their injuries, are a little bit of a sleeping giant. There's a lot of work that Steph Curry is going to be okay for the playoffs. And if he is, I think the Warriors are going to be able to make the deep run. They stay out of the Suns bracket until the conference finals. Who knows if Chris Paul is going to finally have some injury luck, which he never seems to have in the playoffs. So I'll take Bucks Warriors finals matchup at plus 1550 for my best bet for the playoffs. Raheem, what's your NBA playoffs future best bet?
Look, for me, I had trouble really finding a future, and a big reason why is because I wanted to play some futures on some teams coming out of the East. But you have the Nets, you have the Celtics, and you have the Bucks all on one side of the bracket, and they're going to beat up all on each other. So I think there's no value on the future right now with them. You got to play those guys game to game. But I think we're just overthinking it. The Suns have been the best team the entire year. Let's take them plus 270 to win the NBA title. There's going to be positions to hedge. Look, they're the best team in the league, 64-18, almost a plus 7 net rating on the year, first amongst NBA teams. I spoke on it all year long. This is a team that does not lose clutch games. They're first in clutch win percentage. Their net rating is through the roof in the clutch. And their path just got easier because Luka just got hurt. And if the Utah Jazz win this series, the Jazz are a team that they could just walk over, stop. They might sweep the Jazz. So not playing the Mavericks is huge. I really like that. So I think their path got easier. And I think the only team that can match up with this Suns team in the West is the Warriors. So that puts you in a position to where you can hedge on this later. So I'm going to take the Suns plus 270 win the NBA title.
Hard to hate it. I mean, they've been better. I love this question because it's basically, it seems like the most obvious pick, but you're still getting plus 270 on it. So you're still getting good value on it. You're getting the most obvious pick at a good number. Hard to hate on that. Chris Raybon, what do you like?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with another pick that I think it's gonna seem a little more obvious looking back on it than maybe it does right now. But I'm going with the Milwaukee Bucks 5-1 to win the NBA title. First of all, there's a couple of things that I like about the Bucks that I think this number is going to come down. First of all, I think in round one, it's a decent matchup against the Bulls. Their toughest matchup is likely going to come in round two, and that's going to be Boston or the Nets perhaps. But they're going to get home court in that matchup if it's the Nets. And if it's Boston, that means the Nets, either not in their bracket or got eliminated. So I think you're getting some value on the fact that the Nets are sitting there in that 7th seed right now. We don't know what's going to happen yet. Maybe the Nets, mess up and now they're not in the picture the way we thought they were. So I really like the Bucks here. I think they match up well with everybody in the East. I think they have, the best player in the playoffs. And I think they also match up well with the Suns, who are the most likely team, as Raheem mentioned, to come out of West. So, I mean, the two teams that went to the finals last year, the Suns are sitting here at plus 270 and the Bucks are sitting here at plus 500. I just don't think there's that big of a disparity between the two teams' odds. Obviously, the Suns have it kind of sitting there waiting for them with the seeding and with the Luka injury, but I still think you're getting some value on the Bucks because of where the Nets are right now, where there's still some uncertainty remaining as to just exactly what's going to happen with them.
I really like that one. And one thing I'll add on that is that you actually can bet the finals MVP right now, some of these sites. And I think they have Giannis at 7-1, 8-1. I think if you're going to bet the Bucks to win the NBA title, I think you'd be doing great if you added some Giannis MVP futures, because I don't see the Bucks winning the title without Giannis being the guy.
Yeah, it's a great call.
Nice. That's 100% on point. All right, let's go wrap it up for Heat Check. Let's go over the best bets. I've got Kyrie Irving over 6.5 assists. I'm taking the Wolves -3. I've got Clint Capella over 12.5 rebounds, and I got the over 227 in Spurs Pelicans, along with a finals matchup parlay of Bucks and Warriors plus 1550 for my futures pick. Raheem's got Bruce Brown over 13.5 points. The Clippers +3 head-to-head with me there, and on the money line, he's got them over 236 in Hawks, Hornets, and Spurs +5. And he likes the Suns +270 to win the NBA title. Raybon's got Nets, Cavs under 229. Paul George over 7 boards. Plumlee over 5.5 points. Always love a good Mason Plumlee prop on the board. DeJounte Murray over 7.5 rebounds, and the Milwaukee Bucks to go back-to-back +500 to win the NBA title. For more NBA picks all week long, make sure to check out our podcast buckets wherever you get podcasts, and follow Action Network on YouTube. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy the games. The playoffs are here. We'll see you guys again next time on Heat Check.